Are you starting to see it yet? Every action that Trump takes, are you starting to see what is starting to take shape in America? Today's actions, today's DOJ takeover of Washington, D.C. has nothing to do with crime rates, which are legitimately like on the downward decline, right? They are dropping. This has nothing to do with crime rates in D.C. This has everything to do with testing the limits. This is a litmus test to see how much more he can get away with. And he made it very clear during his press conference today. Somebody asked him the question, if this, depending on how this goes, will this happen in other areas? And he literally mentioned cities, blue cities I'll add, but he mentioned Chicago, Los Angeles, other cities he mentioned that this could be a possibility for in the future. He's simply trying to see what he can get away with. And he knows right now that we have a Congress that is not doing shit to stop him. We have a do-nothing Congress of representatives and senators who, by the way, are elected to represent us in Washington, D.C., and they're not doing that. This is simply another test to see what he can get away with. And this is how we get further and further down the pipeline of fascism. Before you know it, it's too late. The more takeover that's allowed to happen, the worse it gets. Too little, too late at some point. This is just the beginning. Keep watching. Keep watching. The National Guard is going to go into more and more cities. Bet on it.
Donald Trump is at it again. Well, this time he did a press conference where he's saying that he's going to bring in the National Guard into Washington, D.C. He says that crime is at an all-time high. Washington, D.C., the district is at an all-time high in murders and just crime. It's just mayhem. There's graffiti everywhere, crack everywhere, people just running wild, right? People just getting gunned down in the streets. That's what he's saying. And he pulled out a paper to show some type of statistics and everything, but what we checked, we know that crime has been dropping significantly. Since 2023, crime has been plummeting. Now, I've been telling you guys for years that they have everything on the computer grid and they can see everything. They're everything on the computer. When you commit a crime, you're getting locked up within 3 weeks. They're catching you. You're not getting away with nothing. So there was a generation coming out of COVID where there was a lot of shootings, right? From before COVID, from 2019 to 2022, they were slaughtering each other across the country, right? All of a sudden, you had these switches that was being sold in the inner city, or they was being able to order them offline. All of a sudden, these kids had access to these switches, and they was promoting the drill music, right? These companies. And next thing you know, with social media, it exploded, and these kids start going crazy all across the country. Well, you got a lot of those kids now locked up. And in my organization, Urban Nerds, we're in the courtrooms right now in juvenile justice systems. We're in the adult courtrooms with a lot of these young kids. They're getting sentenced to double and triple life, right? For all that stuff that went on during the drill era. Now, Donald Trump is lying because he's saying that crime is up and it's not. And he want to send the National Guard. Well, they already did a test run. Y'all remember when they sent the National Guard into Philadelphia? I'm from Philadelphia. They sent them into New York City 5 years ago during the mayhem when you had all the riots going on. I think it was during the George Floyd situation. Y'all remember this?
Welcome back to Eyewitness News. I'm Joe Holden. We are staying on top of this Halloween night with no curfew after Philadelphia's very difficult week as the National Guard now stands watch. Philadelphia police say the unrest that followed the police-involved shooting death of Walter Wallace Jr. led to the arrest of 225 people in all. Since Monday, there have been 59 Philadelphia police officers treated for injuries sustained during the unrest. One officer, a sergeant, is still hospitalized. 17 police vehicles in all have been damaged. Now, in the last 24 hours, there were 35 incidents of looting, a total of 617 since Monday, and 25 ATMs have been vandalized or burglarized. One was targeted just a short time ago in West Philadelphia. Let's get out to Eyewitness News reporter Alicia Reed, keeping tabs on things in the city. Alicia, a short time ago, a source told us that things had been relatively quiet.
That's right, Joe. It's a quiet Halloween compared to the week we had here in Philadelphia. And for those wanting to go out tonight, that curfew has been lifted. Around-the-clock coverage. The National Guard remains intact throughout the city.
I think it's pretty concerning that they're here. I think it's pretty politically motivated, I'd say. I think it's a bit intimidating, especially during this time. Tensions have quieted in recent days. Some visitors welcome the reinforcement.
I think they're here out of precaution, and that means that there's an underlying tension, and it's not normal.
Stores and buildings remain boarded up while revelers enjoy Halloween festivities.
It does feel a little sketchy, but I mean, you know, we're in a pretty crowded space, away from the protest sites, right? So at least I personally feel pretty safe even here with all that's still going on.
The curfew has been lifted, but not everyone was quite sure what to expect.
In general, I didn't hear about any curfew tonight, so I think it feels okay right now.
Center City bars and restaurants are seeing the residual effects from an exhaustive week.
COVID and then the riots and all that, protesting, all that's taking up everything. And nobody's coming out, so I don't even know if we're going to open today.
So Donald Trump is saying that crime is up in the district and crime is up across America. And he's going to start in Washington, D.C. by cleaning up the district, and then he's going to move it out into other cities, right? So we went and we did some research, and we're looking homicides in big cities kept declining. In Q1 of 2025 stats show, right? Preliminary data shows homicides in the nation's largest cities fell by 21% in the first 3 months of 2025. From the same period last year, overall crime continued its post-pandemic drop, right? So then we get down here. Many cities have had significant drops in homicides so far this year. Dallas has seen a 44% decline. Denver, 58%. Honolulu, 82%. Minnesota, 54%. Philadelphia, 28% were among the cities showing a notable drops. Now, mind you, last year in 2024, Philadelphia had the highest number of drops. It dropped by 44%, right? We had unprecedented low numbers. This year, we even 28% lower than that, right? We finished with 243 homicides last year, something that we hadn't seen since the 60s. Now we're even 28% lower than that. So I don't know what Donald Trump is talking about, right? The data didn't include New York City, the nation's largest city, what didn't submit crime numbers. New York releases crime stats on its own website where it reported a 34% drop in homicides in its first quarter, right? Then it had Aurora, Colorado, a Denver suburb that Trump singled out as being overrun by Venezuelan gangs, saw a 36% decline in homicides in 2025. So again, then we go down, we get down here, right? They had a few cities did have large jumps in homicides for the first 3 months. So you have Fort Worth saw 112% spike in homicides. Houston, a 21% increase. Kansas City, 31% increase, right? Then you get to here. Early data shows major homicide drops in 2025 so far, right? Homicides declined in major U.S. cities more than 50% of some communities during the first 6 months of the year, according to new data from an organization of law enforcement executives, right? The stats are the latest signs that violent crime in America is falling from the COVID, from when we had COVID. Homicide rates continue dropping in Denver, right? So they talk about Denver had a 58%. Cleveland homicides plunged in the first half of 2025. Homicides in Cleveland fell nearly 30% in the first 6 months of 2025 compared to the same time last year. Cleveland drop is consistent with many of the nation's large and mid-sized cities, reinforcing a broader decline in broader decline in violent crime since the pandemic surges, right? But Donald Trump, he's saying something different, right? He's up on a soapbox and he's trying to rile the American people up, and he's saying stuff like this. Check.
5 years and the number of carjackings has more than tripled. Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years. Can't be worse. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it. Just like we did on our southern border. Nobody comes through our southern border anymore. 3 months in a row, we had zero. I don't know if that's right, but the people that do the work, It's a very liberal group of people, actually, and they actually said 0 for the last 3 months. Nobody thought a thing like that was possible. And, you know, when you say take a look at numbers, I just saw some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is, okay, the red is a place called Washington, D.C. Look at these. Baghdad we doubled up on Baghdad. Panama City, Brasilia, San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Mexico City, I mentioned, Lima, Peru, all double and triple what they are. So do you want to live in places like that? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think the people in this room, if you wrote correctly, you'd see, look at the kind of numbers we have. D.C., 41 per 100,000, number one that we can find anywhere in the world. Other cities are pretty bad, but they're not as bad as that. Is that where you want to live? The reporters of the world? Juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. It's getting worse. Not getting better, it's getting worse. And we had a recent indication. There was a story about a man who was just left. He quit because he was asked to do phony numbers on crime. And we're going to look into that. I think Pam is going to be looking into that. But he was asked by the city, I guess, that we don't want to show the real numbers. Let me do numbers so it looks like it's going down. Not going down. And under Biden, it was a disaster. And nobody did anything about it. We're going to do things about it like you wouldn't believe. Every American has a constitutional right to be able to access and petition their government in safety, and countless federal officials and employees likewise have the right to carry out their jobs in peace without being shot. As you know, I lost a very good person a while ago, was shot waiting for his wife. He was in the car. They robbed his car. They shot him. They killed him like it was nothing to it. She was walking to the car. It's a horror show. This issue directly impacts the functioning of the federal government and is a threat to America, really. It's a threat to our country. We have other cities also that are bad, very bad. You look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with D.C., and we're going to clean it up real quick, very quickly, as they say. Days ago, a former member of the DOJ staff was savagely beaten by a band of roving thugs after defending a young woman from an attempted carjacking. He was left dripping in blood. He thought he was dead, with a broken nose and concussion. Can't believe that he's alive. He can't believe it. In June, a 21-year-old congressional intern was tragically killed after being hit by a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting. A former Trump administration official named Mike Gill, fantastic person, was murdered last year in cold blood in a carjacking blocks away from the White House. We all knew him. Great person. Waiting for his wife as she was walking to the car. A Democrat congressman was also carjacked at gunpoint not far from the Capitol. And in 2023, an aide to Senator Rand Paul was stabbed in the chest and head by a demented lunatic as he walked down the street, just absolutely for no reason. Horrifically, last July 4th weekend, a 3-year-old girl was shot in the head and killed while sitting in a car near the Capitol. It's becoming a situation of complete and total lawlessness. And we're getting rid of the slums, too. We have slums here. We're getting rid of them. I know it's not politically correct. You'll say, oh, so terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live. Caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets at all times of the day. There are ATVs, motorbikes. They travel pretty well. Entire neighborhoods are now under emergency curfews. Just this past weekend, gunfire went through, and you saw that, the Navy Yard. I saw it this morning. They saw that they fought back against law. See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night. And they're not going to be fighting back long, because I've instructed them and told them whatever happens, you know, they love to spit in the face of the police. As the police are standing up there in uniform, they're standing and they're screaming at them an inch away from their face, and then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit and we hit, and they can hit real hard. It's a disgusting thing. I've watched that for years, for 3-4 years. I've watched them. The police are standing, and they're told, don't do anything under any search. So and you can see they want to get at it.
Now, I told you guys that they got everything on a computer grid, and they was going to be trying to go into martial law. We're in the age and the time of demolition, man. And when you watch that movie, everything that they're talking about, that 2030 agenda, Project 2025, they're implementing all these different things. I tell you guys, go look up the UN 2030 agenda and look up the all-inclusive societies and what they're trying to do, the things that they're trying to implement, and the way and the measures that they're taking to actually bring this thing into place. You guys got to study, man. I've been teaching this stuff on my other channels for years, right? So when I see this, I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked. They already did it 30 years ago. 20 years ago with New York City and Los Angeles. If you look at Los Angeles 30 years ago, the city was on fire in 1992. New York City as well. They cut the murder rate down by like 3/4. They like just totally wiped out crime and got cameras everywhere. So when you do go commit a crime, they just come right in and lock you up. Like, you're not getting away with nothing. They got infrared. They see everything. And they already telling you they coming to get you. So all they're doing is implementing the things that they want to do in order to get cameras everywhere and promote this stuff through the media to get you to sign off for it. Y'all got to sign on to it. They're going to get you to agree to bring the National Guard in so they can go and fill up the prisons again while they gentrifying the communities that you live in and get you up out of there, right? It's just a whole system that's being ran in place from the Democrats and the Republicans. They running the play on you, right? When you look at the Democrats is running the game by bringing in millions of immigrants to replace black Americans as a voting bloc, right? I keep asking, what is the black Philadelphia, black Washington, D.C., black Baltimore going to look like by 2035, right? All these is part of the 2030 agenda. It's the whole thing. You guys got to look. But I want y'all to see something else. I'm going to prove it to y'all. Look at the computer grid that they have where they can see everything from one place all over the country. They can see crime. If there's a crime being committed in Dallas and they sit somewhere in Seattle on a computer, they can see it and phone into the police and have them go there before. Listen, they got this whole thing checkmate. Check this out.
All right, a Louisiana nonprofit is helping law enforcement agencies all over the U.S. with criminal surveillance.
And with fewer officers on the street, the organization is using security cameras to put more eyes in high-crime areas. Rebecca Castor live in New Orleans to show us how it all works. Rebecca.
Natalie, Anthony, it is quite the operation. Inside the building behind me, over 10,000 video feeds from across the country are streaming here instantly. And we got to look inside this nonprofit to see how it's filling in the gaps for police agencies that are still struggling for manpower.
This, of course, is one of our monitoring rooms. You're currently seeing cameras from different parts of the country, California, Florida, New Jersey, and then many points in between.
Former New Orleans police officer Brian Lagarde is the brains behind Project NOLA, the largest network of community crime cameras in the U.S.
The job's tough. We see a lot of bad things. We see some of the worst that humanity has to offer. Part of what makes it worth it is knowing that we're helping justice be served.
Using AI, the cameras alert Project NOLA if they pick up illegal activity, and law enforcement can review video. Any homeowner, business owner, school, or church can request a Project NOLA camera for free. only paying a fee of about $300 a year for cloud storage.
Business owners, residents are realizing the importance to help their local law enforcement. It is a community effort that you cannot, especially with manpower issues right now, law enforcement, it's virtually impossible for them to do it alone. They need the public's assistance.
These are cameras Project NOLA is allowing us to show publicly for this story, but oftentimes their team is in this room watching cameras in crime-ridden neighborhoods with gang violence and drug deals.
We get to know them pretty well by, watching what they're doing, who's controlling them, as we're helping to work up cases on them.
This year alone, Lagarde says the cameras have helped law enforcement on hundreds of cases. And with violent crime spiking in New Orleans, business owners say the cameras are crucial.
If every business in the French Quarter had a camera on the street, that is incredibly valuable.
There is no American dream if you don't feel safe. I absolutely think it's one of the best solutions possible.
When we talk about video surveillance, people often wonder about privacy. Because Project NOLA is a nonprofit, it does not sell any of its data, and it only provides its video to law enforcement. In New Orleans, Rebecca Castor, Fox 32 Chicago.
So now with all this being said, Washington, D.C.'s mayor, she also spoke out about this. And she gave her opinion on the National Guard coming in to police a lot of things. She said, the U.S. military shouldn't be used on American citizens. Well, Donald Trump is saying we got to get them out. We got to go in, lock up a bunch of people, even kick some out of the country. And we all heard what he said, right? But let's look at what the mayor of Washington, of the district, Washington, D.C. had to say. Check it out.
I believe that the president's view of D.C. is shaped by his COVID-era experience during his first term. And it is true that those were more challenging times related to some issues. It is also true that we experienced a crime spike post-COVID, but we worked quickly to put laws in place and tactics that got violent offenders off our streets and gave our police officers more tools, which is why we have seen a huge decrease in crime because of those efforts. We have been able to reverse that 2023 crime spike. This year, crime isn't just down from 2023, it's also down from 2019, before the pandemic, and we're at a 30-year violent crime low. We're not satisfied. We haven't taken our foot off the gas, and we continue to look for ways to make our city safer. We know, however, as most have heard from the president's press conference, that he has prerogatives in D.C. unlike anywhere else in the country, including his authority given by our home rule charter to require the mayor, to require me to supply services of the Metropolitan Police Department. And he also has control and the ability to deploy the National Guard. But let me be clear, as our home rule charter is also clear, and the president's executive order restates. Chief Pamela Smith is the chief of the Metropolitan Police Department, and its 3,100 members work under her direction. The Home Rule Charter requires the mayor to provide the services of MPD during special conditions of an emergency, and we will follow the law. Though there's a question about the subjectivity of that declaration. In fact, the chief has already provided a high-level liaison and point of contact with the federal government and made those initial contacts. The executive order is also clear that the president has delegated his authority to make requests of us to Attorney General Pam Bondi. I have reached out to Attorney General Bondi and hope to schedule a meeting soon. My message to residents is this. We know that access to our democracy is tenuous. That is why you have heard me and many Washingtonians before me advocate for full statehood for the District of Columbia. We are American citizens. Our families go to war. We pay taxes and we uphold the responsibilities of citizenship. And while this action today is unsettling and unprecedented, I can't say that given some of the rhetoric of the past that we're totally surprised. I can say to DC residents that we will continue to operate our government in a way that makes you proud.
I want you guys to understand something, right? While Donald Trump is in office and he's here to make America angry, right? His presidency is going to usher in a woman president, right? Because that's part of the 2030 agenda for an all-inclusive society, for sustainable development and rights for women, right? It's for sustainable development and rights for young women and girls, right? But when they use this term toxic masculinity and all the things that he's doing, he's creating and setting up the atmosphere because everything is a stage. It's like a stage play. He's setting up the stage for a woman to come in now and be president of the United States and implement the all-inclusive society. I need you guys that's out there watching now, name a time in America when America ever had an all-inclusive society for everybody. That never existed, but that's part of the 2030 agenda. And that's what they're doing. And this is why you're seeing all these different groups that normally wasn't part of mainstream society. You see them now getting rights even over women, right? They're getting rights and they're being ushered into mainstream society because it's all part of the agenda for sustainable development. That's what they said, right? So y'all can't be fooled. You guys got to get in the classroom and do your homework and pay attention to what's really going on. What's really going on? Because he's just here for a short time he's doing his part. So now America going to be so angry at the job that he's doing, and those Republicans, you're gonna go right in and put a woman president. I'm not saying that a woman can't be president. I'm not one of those ones that said a woman can't lead, right? It's just got to be the right woman. So, but Donald Trump is saying that he's going to deploy U.S. soldiers in Washington, D.C. And from Washington, D.C., I told y'all, they coming for Philadelphia. They coming for Chicago. They definitely coming for Memphis. They coming for Atlanta, Birmingham, Jackson, Mississippi. All these cities with high murder rates, they coming for you. They coming for you. Because they got a whole plan set in place, man. But y'all gotta let me know what y'all think. What's your opinion on this situation? Leave your comments in the comment section. Hit that like button. Subscribe to Street Media TV. Remember, I love y'all. Till the next time. Peace.